to Israel. Well, my bad, is diverted. 52% of the West Bank's water is diverted to Israeli use, while another 32% goes to illegal settlements, and Palestinians are left with just 6%, triggering severe supply gaps, especially during hot summers. Yeah. But these are God's chosen people, though, right? Doing this to, I guess, what, God's people? Like, we're all God's people at the end of the day. So doing this to God's people is insane, and this should be condemned, but it's not, and it's being championed.
And the government basically says, tough crap. And you know what they do to compensate? They charge me more on my electricity and on my water.
Sometimes I just wonder, like, what would a true red-blooded conservative American that really does believe in the same values that we believe, right? Like, you know, liberty, justice, freedom, defending yourself, right?
Yeah.
Dignity, honor, just basic things.
It makes me wonder, like, what would they do if they were under the same circumstances, you know? Like, it's just, it's wild.
I'll tell you what they'll do. We did a lot for a lot less.
For tea,
we literally, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's the difference, right?
Is resisting anti-Semitic?
Personally, I don't think so.
Why are these older Christians so captured and invested in Israel?
We need to talk about John Darby and his creation of the theological ideology of dispensationalism, which is the idea that God has two different groups of chosen people. He has the Christians, the church, and then he has the Jews. And so that's where Christian Zionism comes from, is from Darby.
Let's break down the mechanics of how Christians are actually funding this brutality you are witnessing. You see, Israel developed a brilliant plan. They do not have to convince the entire American public to participate in the settler movement. They just have to influence how our pastors think. What they do is fly thousands of pastors out to all expenses paid trips to Israel. And when they get their message across, these pastors return to the United States, where they proceed to funnel hundreds of millions of dollars annually into the settler movement. And the reason pastors do this is they believe that Jewish settlement of these areas is necessary to bring about the second coming of Christ. So
I mean, yeah, we got Americans literally paying to break international law.
Essentially, to fulfill this prophecy, they are willing to enable the persecution and suffering of thousands along the way. It's actually insane to read about Jesus in the Bible helping the sick and the broken, and then to look up and see these American churches funding a movement that does not seem to respect Christians or even obey the 10 commandments. Thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's property. I thought we had shared Judeo-Christian values. The cognitive dissonance is hard to understand.
So
the funny thing is, like, they're Jews, and that's First Testament. So I mean, they should know better.
That in mind, Christian Zionists.
Oh, and double tap that screen to like the video, guys. Let's get more people in the conversation by double tapping that screen.
Think they have this fear through cognitive dissonance that if they oppose Israel for whatever reason, whether they're committing genocide blatantly in the open or not, they're turning their back on God. And that is deathly fearful to their mind, thinking to themselves, if I curse Israel, if I go against Israel, even if they commit a genocide, I'm going to go to hell maybe. They're just willful idiots to them. They don't care about Christianity. They don't care about Jesus. They hate Jesus. They don't care about America.
Guys, it is fascinating to watch Christian Zionists supporting Israel. After all, it is not going so well for Christians over in that part of the world. For starters,
and you know, as a guy who, well, you know, I ain't gonna lie, I'm in the middle of a Christian and a Muslim, but I believe in Abrahamic God, and it is a bit blasphemous to me to even sit there and suggest that our God would want genocide on this earth. Like, it's like, especially since the coming of the messenger Jesus Christ. Like, it's blasphemous to even think that he would want anything like this.
It appears it is culturally normal for Jewish adults and children to spit on Christians. And even Officer Tatum, a known Israeli mouthpiece, told Benjamin Netanyahu to his face that he got spit on when he visited the Holy Land.
We had only one incident where a small child spit on one of the pastors.
And let's be real, Israeli spitting.
Now, that is true. I have heard of that. Like, yeah, like California's starting to drag on the water supply a little bit. And yeah, shout out to TB. She says, California keeps taking our water too. I'm going to start getting mad too. I mean, yeah, you have every right to do so. But thank God they're not doing it to the extent that the Israelis do it to the Palestinians. Thank God. Because, I mean, can you imagine only having to go a couple of days without having water? You can't wash yourself, can't really clean up or anything like that because, well, they cut your water supply off, and the rest of it is going to the chosen people and to illegal settlements.
is the least of Christian concerns over there. The IDF routinely prevents Christians from worshiping, and Israel literally bombed the last remaining Catholic church in Gaza.
Tonight, a look at the damage to Gaza's only Catholic church after it was struck by Israeli artillery,
which resulted in the Pope calling the act outright barbarity. Folks, if you are pissing the Pope off, you have to be f***ing up big time. And the craziest thing to me about this is that American Christian Zionists are actively funding this. Their churches donate tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars a year straight to Israel. And it makes me wonder, are these people aware that they are raising money for people that appear not to even like them? Blows my mind.
And to your knowledge, what do
bro, the Jewish faith, let's be real, they kind of see you guys as like idol worshipers. And the reason why they see the Christians as idol worshipers in the Jewish faith is because, well, one, they don't believe that Jesus was even the Messiah or God. So I don't even know how the hell we connect this whole Judeo values when the whole foundation of Christianity is believing that Jesus, the Messiah, is God. Like, that's the whole foundation of it. So how do we have Christian Judeo values when they literally don't believe that about Jesus? They have the worst image and say some of the worst things about Jesus, but we share values with them, and they sit there and they spit on Christians. They've bombed churches in the West Bank and Gaza. So I'm sorry, but how do Christians get down with this? Because I'm confused. Because, like I said, I'm not even Christian and I'm offended.
believe about Jesus?
From what I've heard, he's desecrating in human shit. Yeah, no, they see him as a false messiah.
Hey, and shout out to my man Bernie. He sent the thumbs up for 10 joules. And shout out to my man Movie Movements. He sent GG for 10 joules. I just seen him, guys. Appreciate the support.
Like terrible narratives about Jesus and about his mother, about Mary. They call her a whore, a harlot. You know, they call Jesus that he's like a bastard, that he's burning in human excrement. They hate Christians more than they hate Muslims. It is very true that if a Christian were to walk down some areas in Jerusalem or other,
because you know it's actually wild, believe it or not. Like, yeah, I know they go to war with Muslims and Arabs all the time, but they actually do hate Christians more because they see them as idol worshipers. At least the Muslims, and they said, I've heard rabbis say this out loud, at least the Muslims believe in one God, the one God that we have. Christians, idol worshipers. Who is this JC guy? He is a harlot. He is a heretic. I was like, hey, yo, whoa, chill on my man Jesus. But I mean, doesn't that let you know something? That they actually religiously align more with the Muslims than Christians. Just let that sink in real quick.
that they would be spit on. Like you see, imagine a mother, a father, and children. They tell them, hey, spit, there's a Christian. Not even talking. They just.
And here's the thing. You know what's wild? I mean, at least under the Muslims, you were allowed to practice Christianity and Judaism. Of course, you got to pay a tax. That's back in the old days. But even in Muslim countries today, you're allowed to be a Christian. You're allowed to be a Jew. You can go to synagogues, churches. But for some reason, Israel's a bit different. I don't get that. It's like, it's wild. I remember, what was it, Tucker Carlson, when he dropped that bomb on Huckabee, and he said, you know, there's more Christians that live comfortably in Qatar than in Israel. That's one, like, and that's wild to hear.
But together, they just all do it. It's like a common practice.
My name is Stephen Kapos, and I am a child survivor of the Holocaust in Hungary, Budapest. I was in hiding on false papers, etc., which happened after October 44. Soon after, our location was caught up in the fighting between Germany and the invading Soviet troops. So we had double jeopardy. I think that's an important background to understanding Gaza, because I can relate to their experience both of the destruction and the fighting, as well as the insecurities of hiding.
Yes. Are you Jewish?
I am indeed.
Would you consider yourself to be anti-Semitic?
Of course not.
And I don't either. But this is how you're going to be labeled and I'm going to be labeled just for speaking out about Israel. Have you gotten attacks like that before?
Yes, I have.
How ridiculous do you find them?
Well, totally ridiculous. But my family lost 15 people to the death camps.
In your assessment, Do Israelis view Palestinians in the same way that Germans viewed the Jews?
Yes, I'm afraid to some extent, unfortunately.
Before we cover the details of your son's murder, can you say who your son was, what he was up to in Florida before he got killed?
My son actually was running the ice cream shop with me, 20-year-old.
Oh, and his son, American citizen, by the way.
He graduated high school like 2.5 years ago. I'm kind of an entrepreneur also. Like I've run clothing stores. I've done many kind of businesses and stuff like that. I guess he wanted to, follow in my footsteps. We found this ice cream shop, so we kind of opened it, and he was running it the whole time. I lived back and forth between the West Bank and the States, and he was living here in Tampa, Florida, permanently.
Can you describe what happened when your son got killed?
Basically, this summer, his son wanted to go and visit his mother, his brother and sister, and me. We were all in the West Bank. I said, it's fine. Then you go ahead and go. This was back in June. So I told him, since you want to stay here for a little bit longer, I'm basically going to have to go to the States and take your place. So I left on July 11th, seeing all these missed calls. And then I seen, the group messaging going like bonkers. And I opened it up and it's showing that the son of Camille, is basically missing or injured. I called up my son, my younger son, and he told me that Saif, your son, is unconscious right now, and something happened in the mountains. So I kept going back and forth, and I was like, someone tell me what's going on. No reply whatsoever. So I knew there's something more going on. Then I called my son Saif's phone, but the person that answered was not him. It was one of his friends, and he told me, he's okay. At that moment, my son was unconscious. I was like, oh. It just gets me every time, man. What happened was that Israeli settlers ambushed these young people that were going there to the lands. They were beaten, brutally beaten. So what had happened is Saif was beaten, and he started running, and all the friends kind of dispersed. And on his way down, he basically found this tree. When he reached under this tree, he kind of lost it. His eyes were open, but there was no response from them. He stayed in that state for hours because the ambulance was prevented from the Israeli soldiers to come in. When they finally reached them, because the terrain is kind of rough in that area. The ambulance got as close as it can. They put him on the stretcher. My younger son seen this, and he told me, Dad, basically 5 minutes before he got into the ambulance is when he took his last breath. The delay of the Israeli, army delaying to get to him, the paramedics or any medical assistance, it had a big impact in the killing of my son. When they were on their way to the hospital, until finally, after about 30 minutes later, he called me up. And, he told me, he said, Dad, I don't know how to tell you, but your son was killed. And, Saifullah is gone. And I was like, the hardest moment of my life, because you don't expect that ever to happen to your own son, and you're always expecting that he's going to bury you. His whole thing was to make me proud, man. That was his thing. I want to make my dad proud. I don't want to disappoint him. I was never disappointed, in anything he did, It's hard to only manage it. Because you miss him, man. 20 years old.
The Israeli settlers are a cancer to the fabric of Israeli society. What do you think about that?
Completely untrue.
Do you think that would be anti-Semitic?
No, I think it's a political opinion that some people hold.
Yeah, the former Prime Minister of Israel, actually. That was the quote of the former Prime Minister of Israel, Yitzhak Rabin.
Sure.
So I feel like when I tell you violence that is happening today, you try and take it back to 2,000 years ago. I'm talking about the violence
2,000 years ago.
I'm talking about the violence happening right now in the West Bank, and especially in areas that are Territory A, that should be under full Palestinian authority. They are still being patrolled by IDF, and they are still being overran by Israeli settlers that are armed with American guns.
That's completely incorrect. So Israelis do not enter Area A, because if you enter Area A, it's punishable by Israeli law very heavily.
Nah, the reason he was so taken back because he was just like, bro, there's proof of them going into Territory A, B, C. They don't care. They don't care. They actually want to take the West Bank, all areas of it. So I'm sorry, but there's video proof of these guys going into that sector that they're not supposed to be in, or Area A where they're not supposed to be in, according to him.
Number one.
Well, I just want to get that quote.
Does it
Israeli settlers are not entering Area A. That's what you're saying.
They are not. They should not be. It is punishable by Israeli law. That's a big legal problem. You're not allowed to do that.
These lands are our lands. It's under Area A, not under Area B, not under Area C, which is Israeli authority. Now, these are land under Palestinian authority. These are lands that were passed down to us. And these Israeli settlers are going there since April.
What I can tell you is, you're talking about settler violence, right? And the statement that you just made about them being a cancer, I completely disagree with that. And here's why. Because, again, that's a political opinion from the left, and they're entitled to it, and that's fine. I mean,
no, your former prime minister said that. Your former prime minister.
It's a Democrat country, and we're allowed to have those.
I'm sorry, dog, but there's people who have that opinion on the right as well. It's not just a left-leaning opinion. I do hate how y'all try to pass it off as a left-leaning opinion, because it makes a lot of guys on the right wing don't actually look into this, don't want to do no research into it, because, oh, this is a left-wing talking point. No, this is a geopolitical talking point that can be talked about on the left and the right, and that needs to be talked about on the left and the right shouldn't veer away from it because the left is talking about it. I'm sorry, but it's not a left-wing talking point. If anything, accurately talk about it would be a geopolitical talking point.
Conflicting ideas, that's fine. That's part of the democracy. I completely disagree with that as a security professional, as somebody who's been in Judea, Samaria. A lot of our politicians, ironically, have not.
That's another sleight of hand, by the way.
Other areas.
Referring it to Judea, Samaria as a sleight of hand that Israelis are using to not be in the same ballpark about what we're talking about. No one else refers to it as Judea, Samaria except for the Israelis.
That's incorrect. I just sat down with the ambassador of the United States, Mike Huckabee, the other day.
The biggest Zionist in the fucking room.
Judea and Samaria. There's no such thing as a settlement. They're communities, they're neighborhoods, they're cities. There's no such thing as an occupation.
Yeah, completely denied what was going on in the West Bank. And then also, he's the same guy who said, you know, Israel could have it all. Like Tucker Carlson, you told me that Israel can pretty much take a good little chunk of all these countries to create greater Israel. He said it'd be fine if Israel had it all. I mean, that outraged a lot of Middle Eastern countries, and they definitely asked for him to apologize, which I don't think he did, because he meant it. He truly believes that Israel should be able to take all this land from these Arab countries. And I mean, there's some people in the chat who believe it as well.
Statement? Yes. Because that's kind of important. I don't know. Have you sat with the ambassador of the United States ever?
Go ahead.
So being an honored guest at the U.S. Embassy here in Jerusalem, in our meeting, we actually asked him about this very term and his staffers, and they confirmed that, yes, that is a term that some of the staffers use, and others use West Bank for clarity, because people they get confused because they don't understand these terminologies.
So I'm here at the site because I can't.
Like, I'm sorry, but when you call it Judeo-Samaria, you're kind of letting us know your intent. That's the problem when you call it that. You're damn near already claiming it to be part of, well, y'all land, part of Israel, part of Judea. So, yeah, when you call it stuff like that, you're kind of letting us know what you're trying to do. It's like somebody pointing at a car and said, oh, yeah, that's my car. And you're looking at them like, no, it's not, bro. That's not your car. She was about to be mine, and they go in there and steal the car. I mean, think about it like that. Like, you're kind of letting us know that you're planning on stealing it by already calling it yours.
Get close to the area that my son was killed because I fear for my life. These Israeli settlers are armed and dangerous, and behind me is the area that my son was killed. For 3 hours, having a hard time breathing with no help.
Let's break down some of these details. Number one, can you just describe how many Israeli settlers there were, how old you think they were, and did they hit him? Did they have sticks? Did they have, like, describe who this group was and what they did to your son?
They have this group called like the Hilltop Gang or Hilltop Clan, and they're basically going around all these like areas in the West Bank and trying to claim or put outposts, saying that this is their land. You know, they had clubs that day. There was one of his friends. He just had some major ACL reconstruction. He had his whole knee busted from in, out, everywhere. He's barely walking now. There was another guy, he had his head busted with all this, I think he had like 12 or 13 stitches on his head.
And what role did the IDF play in your son's death?
The IDF played a big role. Them preventing the ambulance to get to him earlier is a big cause, you know, in leading to his murder.
So if the IDF soldiers had simply let an ambulance treat a wounded person that was attacked, good chances are today he'd be alive.
Yes, 100%.
So this would be like if an innocent man was attacked by a mob and the very police that are supposed to protect him kept the ambulance from coming.
Blocked them completely, yes.
Are IDF soldiers supposed to protect the Palestinians?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Why in this case would the
we're not supposed to. We're mainly supposed to protect Israelis.
Right. That's what happens. Yeah.
In carrying out that mission, we are also not allowed to harm others. So in other words, to avoid casualties from anybody, which would include Palestinians.
Would you consider it to be harm to block an ambulance from treating someone for over 3 hours that just got attacked by a mob of settlers?
Yeah, of course, if that's true. Yeah. How come you don't mention the killing of Benjamin Ahmair, a 14-year-old? He was killed in April 12th, 2024, during the war that we've been in. Why don't we mention, I don't know, and you said rocks isn't a big deal. If you recall in our conversation, we kind of discussed a little bit some of the talking points you wanted to cover. Well, just rocks killed Yehuda Shoam in 2001.
Yeah, but here's a problem. This is going to sound effed up when I say, I mean, God rest their soul, but here's a problem with this. These are incidents that are separated by years. The problem with what you guys are doing in the West Bank is this is an everyday thing. Palestinians are getting hurt and killed every single day. And this has been happening for years. And you're telling me that we need to call up the points where, oh, well, you know, this baby and this person died 2, 3, 4 years apart. And I'm like, yeah, bro, well, maybe that wouldn't have happened if you weren't killing them systematically every day for years. That doesn't play into your equation at all.
Killed Jonathan Palmer and his son in 2011. Okay, these are people that just were commuting on the roads. It wasn't settler violence. It wasn't anything that you hear. Oh, and by the way, according to the United Nations reports that you're reading and that you're quoting to me about all the settler violence, this goes under the settler violence.
Why are you doing this for settler violence?
Because he was driving on the road. How is that settler violence? We cry for the one guy. We never talk about the other. There's two people. In fact, there's many people here.
A few things. One, any innocent Israeli that gets killed is a shame, and we are in agreement. However, the reason one side is more accentuated is because it's a sheer volume problem. When you said 2001, 2011, 2024, there's a lot of gaps. I'm talking about almost on a daily basis. Hold on, you spoke for like 6 minutes straight. I'm going to talk just a little bit, okay? It's the sheer volume of these things happening. Israel ambassador Mike Huckabee tweeted.
And that's the problem. It's the sheer volume. It's like, bro, y'all done like injured and killed like what 200-300 Palestinians this year in the West Bank, and they'll want to talk to you about the 2 Jewish people that died. Why don't you ever bring up them? I'm sorry, but you kind of buried them in the deaths full of Palestinians. I mean, through all the Palestinian names that you guys have killed and injured, it's going to be hard to pick out the few Jewish ones that are actually the fault of Palestinians. And we're not saying that it doesn't happen. We're just saying that Israeli aggression towards Palestinians happen a lot more than Palestinian aggression towards Israelis in the West Bank.
At Israel, and he's a guy that's as Zionist as you can get.
Yeah.
He even tweeted at Israel that it was a murder and that there needed to be accountability for your son's death.
Yeah, it was an act of terror, he called it. It's been 6 months. There haven't been any leads to the investigation. U.S. Department of State haven't They did no investigation. The FBI didn't do an investigation, even though it's a U.S. citizen.
Yep.
You know, on
American
top of
citizen,
everything,
by the way.
me, my wife, my whole family have a security ban on us.
They unalived an American citizen, and there's been no real investigation into it. Nobody's been held accountable. No charges brought against the settlers who did this to our American brethren. But I mean, hey, man, if it's Israel, I guess it's all good, right? I guess we got to dead the situation. I guess it don't matter. When an American dies in Israel, who cares? That's sick. But make sure you double tap the screen, like the video, guys. Let's get more people in on the conversation by double tapping that screen.
By the Israeli authorities. I can't even go through Tel Aviv airport anymore. I can't go to Ben Gurion airport anymore. I can't enter Jerusalem anymore.
Yes, you heard that correctly. Israeli settlers murdered his son, and the Israeli government responded by giving Kamo's family collective punishment. They can no longer fly into Tel Aviv, but rather have to take an extremely long route through another country to get to their land in the West Bank. Furthermore, shortly after his son's murder, he was threatened by the Israeli army that if he did not voluntarily come in for a DNA swab, that they would arrest him and kidnap him in a raid. So illegal squatters killed his son. The Israeli army blocked the ambulance from rescuing him, and yet they still continue to terrorize his family to this day. And this, folks, is textbook Israeli behavior. Where's the accountability, let's say, for the murder of Saif Musalla?
I wasn't there. I know there's a lot of controversy on that particular incident. To my knowledge, he was up to no good. I actually get the actual report of what happened that the media did not tell, and you read the report and you're like, holy crap, it's completely different than what the media portrayed, because the media wants a story. If it doesn't bleed, it doesn't lead. One of them being that you said that settler violence is overwhelmingly worse against the Palestinians. Yes, because the United Nations are the ones that they collect the information, they pump it to the media, and what they do is they fudge the numbers. They sometimes triple the number of cases where there's settler violence and or altercations.
The problem is they got the names, dates, incidents, like they have a description of each case. So what are you talking about? So you tell me they went through the trouble of just making up names, writing out the incidences, like all that. Like, come on now, bro. Stop lying. The actual, like the problem is that Israeli violence, Israeli aggression is in high numbers against Palestinians. And that's just the fact of the matter. The UN is only looking at it because it is an international crime. Like, come on now, guys. Let's not play stupid here.
With the Israeli security forces, you're looking at it from the way that you're looking at it. But I know the people that are living through it.
Do you agree with Mike Huckabee's assessment that it was a murder of Saif Musalla?
I don't agree with him because, with his statement, if you like, because it's an unprofessional statement if that's what he said.
As if your nightmare couldn't get any worse from your son getting killed, a few months ago, your nephew was brought into Israeli prison on the pretext of throwing a rock.
Yeah, they come to the door, banging on the door. My brother-in-law opened the door before they busted it because they don't give no chances. You know, they're just, you know, when they come in, he's thinking like, what the hell did I do? He's not thinking that they're coming for his 15-year-old son. They take him for allegedly throwing these rocks, take him to an Israeli military police, blindfold him, put him in handcuffs. And then that was the last time that the mother, father, brothers, sisters, anybody had any physical contact or seen him directly until the day that he was released on November 27th, I think it was.
Tell me like the bullet points of what happened to him in that 9.5 months in prison.
He got scabies. He lost 25 pounds. He said they would make cards, playing cards from napkins. And when the guards found those, they would take it and rip it and throw it away in the garbage. They would pound on them and then, you know, give them a kick here, a kick there. Their food was so scarce, they would give him like a meal that's for one person, but they would have to divide it between 4 to 5 people. When he came out, he was so pale, man. You can just see like this kid has no sunlight.
He turned 16 while in prison.
He turned 16 while in prison.
So he had been beaten, starved, infested by bugs as a 15-year-old kid.
And the scabies just stayed. Even after he got out in November, he kept on itching.
And this is an American citizen?
This is an American citizen.
Where does he live?
You know, born U.S. American citizen from Florida also. This is Saifullah's first cousin. My wife and his mother are sisters.
I didn't even know about him.
Generally speaking, how are Palestinians treated in Israeli prisons? It's a known fact that before the 7th of October, things were pretty bad. But after the 7th of October, the Shabak decided to start implementing tactics, torture tactics, where they use dogs to rape people. They torture them methodically. They don't give them food. They starve them on purpose. They beat them up methodically. And mind you, this is not just for older people. This is for 14-year-old prisoners or even younger that they have to face this treatment. It's concentration camps. The Israeli prisons are pretty much concentration camps at this point.
Every day from on top of my house, I can see the Batin area, which is the area that my son was killed. But I can't get there yet.
Not for real. Yeah, like imagine Oklahoma taking a piece of Texas. Civil War activated. Yeah, it would be initiated right there and then. It'd just be like, all right, it's cooked. I don't know what got into Oklahoma, but apparently they think they could just annex parts of Texas, of all places, Texas. I think that'd be the last country you want to fuck with on a personal note. I think I'd want to go for one of the countries that isn't known for having the most people with guns. You know, if you'd want to go to any other state, I would attack one of the northern states on the west side.
Israeli settlers are still there, armed and dangerous.
Here on the east side, we got guns.
I want to know a little bit about this night patrol that you guys do every night.
لجنة حراسات سنجل شكلنا هذه لجنة الحراسات من الاعتداءات المستوطنين المستمرة في هذا البلد. طبعا احنا جماعة متطوعين من حالنا طبعا، ولا من اي مؤسسة ولا من اي حدا. تطوع من اهل بلدنا، مختارين من اهل البلد. احنا لجنة مشكلة تقريبا 200 واحد، مقسمين حالنا 4 تقسيمات لحماية أهل سنجل وأطفال سنجل ونساء سنجل وبنات سنجل. طبعا الاعتداءات مستمرة في البلد، كل يوم في اعتداء من المستوطنين.
That was the day that this night patrol started. It was after my son was brutally murdered and killed by the Israeli settlers on this mountain that I cannot even reach yet. I haven't reached my land yet since that time. So hopefully this will all be solved and some accountability will come to these settlers.
Folks, we just saw a snapshot of what is happening every single day to Palestinians. And we uncovered the murder of an American citizen, the imprisonment of an American citizen. And I think we have to start asking ourselves the question, what are we doing aligned with Israel? What are they doing in the world that we agree with from a humanitarian standpoint? And as I speak right now, we are 4 weeks into a war with Iran that arguably they got us into in the first place. And now we see announcements that Trump might send American troops to fight on the ground, but Israel will not commit to any ground troops. And we have to ask, is this really our greatest ally? And I think we all know the answer. How long are we going to back up?
How are you going to start a fight that you're not going to commit to? It's crazy, but then make other people commit to it.
Happening to the people in Gaza, the people in Palestine, now the people in South Lebanon. How far is this going to go? I don't want to be a part of it. I don't want my tax dollars to be a part of it. And quite frankly, I'm sick of this. It's depressing to see this, but one way we can get involved is to help fund organizations like PalShield. So I'm going to donate. I encourage you to as well. It's time for us to wake up as a country and decide who are we going to be allied with in this world? Who's going to...
I mean, bro, decide what we standing on. Are we really standing on this type of behavior? Do we really support this? Of course not, because if it was done to us, I'm gonna be real with you. I mean, this may sound wild, but if this was done to us as Americans, we all be out there acting like Hamas. Like, bro, they took your land from your grandparents and they're telling you you can't go back to it. Oh, and if you try to, they're gonna kill you. You protest them, they kill you. You speak out against them, they kill you. Then what? Well, what else you got left? Well, you just gonna sit there and just be castrated like that, or are you gonna fight back? I thought so. But I mean, hey, bro, that's what I say, bro. People create these terrorists. And I mean, Hamas, Israel literally funded Hamas. They created Hamas to undermine the